Hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters gathered at the port of Piraeus in Greece on Thursday to protest against the arrival of a ship carrying Israeli soldiers amongst its passengers. People held placards, waved flags, and chanted slogans calling for the freedom of the Palestinian people at the demonstration, which was organised by the communist-backed labour union PAME. The demonstrators made their way to Gate E12, where they were confronted by police forces who had blocked access. There, they threw tzatziki at the Port Authority building, arguing that they were demonstrating Greek hospitality. The demonstrators dispersed peacefully at the end of the protest. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced the EU has sent firefighting crews to battle blazes in Montenegro, Greece and Spain. This comes as several southern European countries battle a series of wildfires which have killed at least 3 people. The Commission's response includes voluntary offers of assistance from EU member states, as well as its own strategic reserve. In northern Spain, residents took matters into their own hands by taking a hose to put out smouldering flames. The most severe fires pushed northward into more rural areas. More than 9,000 were evacuated in the Zamora region after a wildfire that spread into neighbouring Leon. In Portugal, around 3,000 firefighters continued to battle a series of wildfires on Wednesday. The country has seen some of its most intense wildfires in recent history, with flames burning through thousands of hectares of land. In Greece, emergency crews from the Czech Republic joined Greek forces to contain a blaze in Megara, close to the Greek capital of Athens. Flames also swept into the city of Patras on Tuesday night, burning homes and prompting thousands to evacuate. The wildfires have been triggered after early measurements suggest unprecedented temperatures broke records this summer across Europe, driving bigger and stronger wildfires. Last year was the hottest year on record in Europe and globally, the EU's monitoring agency said.
Like much of Europe, Romania is experiencing a heat wave. The week began with a red alert for high temperatures. Drought is wreaking havoc, and in several villages, the wells have run dry.
Puțin de tot. Și înainte o scoteam până aici. Acum 2 săptămâni de zile. Și acum nu vedeți. Goală.
This is the reality in many villages in Romania's southwestern Dolj County.
Doar atât că nu mai rămâne nici mie. Atât se ajunge pe astăzi.
E puțină.
De când a început să sece?
De 2-3 ani.
Și acum aveți apă de câte...
Cu o găleată, câte 2 găleți maxim dacă iau.
The wells by the roadside are filled with mud.
De 80 de ani nu s-a pus problema de a nu avea apă.
Multe fântâni au secat, iar ca trecător printr-o astfel de localitate cum este Apele Vii, într-o zi călduroasă de vară nu ai nicio sursă de apă pentru a-ți potoli setea.
Peste 70% dintre fântânile din comuna Apele Vii sunt astopate.
There's a water pipeline for the commune's houses, but even so, because of the drought, there's not enough water for all the inhabitants. Experts say that the heat wave and lack of rain have caused this situation.
În partea sud-vestică a țării și în special în Oltenia, aprovizionarea cu apă în sol pe intervalul 0-100 de centimetri este destul de redusă, instalându-se deja seceta pedologică puternică și chiar extremă în sud-vestul regiunii.
Large parts of Europe are currently being hit by an unprecedented drought. According to the European Drought Observatory, more than half of the soils in Europe and the Mediterranean region are affected. Experts warn that the situation is at its most serious in 13 years. More than half of Romania's soils are affected by extreme drought. But the most critical situation is in Serbia, where almost all the soil is affected and 2/3 of the territory is on alert. In Germany, France, and the United Kingdom, the drought continues to worsen from week to week.
The Stop Destroying Video Games petition has reached over 1.4 million signatures across the European Union. If validated, the European Commission will have to examine the initiative and decide whether or not to present a proposal to the European Parliament aimed at preventing video game distributors from blocking their titles.
So it is a form of kind of planned obsolescence. Many games, I can send you a list, there are about 1,000 of them that we just researched a couple of months ago, where they have an online component. And that online component, when it gets turned off by the publisher, not editor, but the publisher of the video game, that game is unplayable.
Those who began the petition gave the example of the online racing game The Crew, launched in 2014 by the French company Ubisoft, which has not been accessible since 2024. They denounce a growing practice that, in their view, undermines consumer protection and destroys cultural heritage.
All we are asking is, when the game is turned off, so that it has an end-of-life plan. So it remains reasonably playable. We don't expect it to be completely playable with all the bells and whistles, just that the core of the game is still playable for a person who legally bought it.
Video Games Europe, the lobbyist for the video games industry, said in a statement published in July that shutting down an online game must be an option for companies when it is no longer commercially viable. They added that private servers are not an alternative, as there would be no data protection, no removal of illegal content, and no fight against dangerous content. They also assert that this would increase the cost of creating video games.
Russian authorities say they are partially restricting calls through the WhatsApp and Telegram messaging apps, the latest step in an effort to tighten control over the internet. The government media and internet regulator justified the measure as necessary to fight crime. Over the years, Russian authorities have adopted multiple restrictive laws and banned websites, further restricting internet access this summer with widespread shutdowns of connections. Last month, the government also adopted a law punishing users for searching content they deemed illicit.
51 years after Attila II and the Turkish invasion of Cyprus, the wounds are still open. But in both communities, despite their differences, there are initiatives that leave hope for the future. Both sides have started restoring the cemeteries of the other religion as a sign of respect and community.
Possibly out of all the monuments, it beholds a more anthropocentric and more grounded value, and one that also relates more directly to the people.
So far, the restoration of 15 cemeteries on the Green Line, which divides the island of Cyprus into the Republic of Cyprus and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, is underway.
Έρχεται κόσμος στο χωριό μας να δει τους τάφους, τα σπίτια τους. Έχουμε κόσμο που επισκέπτεται για να δει τι ήταν οι προγόνοι του, που ήταν. Πώς απαιτούμε να σέβονται μας, τους νεκρούς μας, τη θρησκεία μας κλπ. Θεωρώ ότι είναι σεβασμός να σεβαστούμε και εμείς.
After the Turkish invasion, Christian churches and cemeteries were vandalized, while Muslim mosques and cemeteries were damaged and abandoned. For decades, even crossing over to the other side to leave flowers on gravestones was banned. The cemetery restoration project, which is funded by the European Union, began last May.
Yani gördüğümde burayı çok üzülürdüm. Neden böyle oldu diye. Yani hem bir daha anlaşma isterik, bir daha şeylerimizi koruyalım yani. Camilerimizi, kiliselerimizi, yani onların da dini var, bizim de dinimiz var. Nasıl ki biz mezarlıklarımızı harap olmasını istemeyik, atalarımız yatır neticede.
There are discussions for expanding the project, which would cost €700,000.
Zdi se mi ključno, da smo v 21. stoletju vendarle pripravljeni na ta civilizacijski korak, da damo ljudem možnost, poudarjam možnost, da sami avtonomno odločijo, če in ko želijo zaključiti svojo zgodbo.
Ta zakon je pravičen, vsakomur omogoča konec življenja po njegovi lastni izbiri, bodisi da se želi neke pomoči pri skrajševanju, daje pa tudi možnost tistim, ki si želijo naraven konec življenja, da si vnaprej zagotovijo tak konec življenja. In ta zakon ne prinaša obveznosti ali prisile nikomur.
Zelo verjetno je, da bodo številni zdravniki podali ugovor vesti in na koncu se lahko morda zgodi situacija, nekje podobna situaciji, kot jo imajo v Švici, da to specialno opravljajo samo določeni zdravniki in ti v večji meri.